Okay, so we are going to do a lesson on parallel and perpendicular lines, talk about their slopes and their given equations. So for this particular homework on Delta Math, this problem says graph a line that is parallel to the given line. Determine the slope of the given line and the one you graphed in simplest form. So here's the initial problem. I want to take you to the next slide and kind of show you what it would look like when you graph the line. So here's a line that's parallel. Now when you plot this line or drag and draw it, it'll make a solid green color once you know it is parallel. Okay, then moving forward, we need to calculate what the actual slope is. So for the original one, you just want to pick a couple of points here that are on the graph. So here, I'm circling here, the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So again, do rise over run. So that's down 4 and to the right 4. So down 4, right 4, that would be a slope of -1. Now, the whole significance of this lesson is that when you do parallel, their slopes should be the same. That's the reason they are parallel, is because they never ever intersect, and the only way that can happen is if their slopes are equal. So again, I'm going to take a couple of points. So this one right here is at 8, okay? And then this one is at 1. So if you go down 8, and then right here I am at -5, and you go over to this next point. Oops, sorry, that's too far. I should go right here, which is at 2, so that's actually down 6, and then go over to this point, 6, so down 6 over 6, and again you get -1. Okay, so for this one, it wants one that is perpendicular. So again, you're going to click and drag a line, and once it's perpendicular, it'll be solid in color. So it'll look like this. And then you're going to continue with the slopes. Now, the rule for perpendicular, their slopes are opposite reciprocals. Okay, what does all that mean? So again, let's find a couple points and find the slope. So here's my original. So rise, I go up 2. My run, I go over 8. So up 2 over 8, and that is 1/4. So the original is 1/4. Now, what opposite reciprocal means is you change the sign. Opposite means different sign, and reciprocal means you flip it. So the perpendicular slope, if I do that, should be opposite and then reciprocal. So -4 over 1, or just -4. Now, let's actually check it. I'm going to change colors here so I can show you. So right here, I have a point, and here I have a point. So again, rise, so I go from 9 to 1, so that's down 8, over run, and now I go over 2. So what I get, -8 over 2. If I simplify that, that gives me -4, which I got here. So again, if they're perpendicular, they're opposite reciprocals. So now we have a little different problem. I'm going to slide this over. It says, which equation represents a line which is parallel to the given line? So the first thing I need to do is I take the original equation, and I've got to find its slope. Now, how do I find its slope? You could find the intercepts and do slope by the points. You could change it to slope-intercept form, which is what I'm going to do here. And then you want to look at the slopes of these other equations. So first, let's simplify this one. So I'm going to move the 6x over by subtracting. So it's -5y equals -6x plus 5. Then divide everything by -5. So this becomes y equals 6/5 x minus 1. So here's the slope of the original line. Now what I'm looking for is, if it's parallel, the slope of the new line must be the same thing. So that would be this one right here, and there would be my line or equation of line that is parallel. The only thing you notice is different are their y-intercepts. They start at 2 different points. Okay, next we have one that is already in slope-intercept form. So we have 8/5 for my slope. But now I've got to change these others. This one's a little bit tougher because now you've got multiple equations that you have to change. But it's the same process, okay? So one thing you could think about is really if you want y by itself, that means you're going to be, in this case, dividing by 8. Well, I need to be dividing by 5, so that one's out. So it's got to be one of these other three, okay? The next thing is this is a positive. This one is a positive slope, so I need a positive for my other. So the next thing I think about is if I take this x over, that's going to be a negative 8x, and then this is a positive 5, so that would all be negative, so that one's out. If I take this 8 over, it becomes negative, but then I divide by negative 5. Negative divided by negative is positive, so that's going to be my correct answer. Now, I'm actually going to work it out just to double check. And again, if you can't understand the process by which I just went through, you can just do each equation independently and work them out. So I take the x over, it becomes its opposite, negative. And then I have to divide by the negative 5. So when I do that, then this now becomes a positive 8/5 x, and that's a plus 2. Now I have the same slope, so that was correct. Which equation represents a line that is perpendicular? Now, x equals 0, okay? X equals 0, that's a horizontal line, remember? A vertical line, because when you go on the graph, x equals 0 here, remember to be a function, it must pass the vertical line test. In this case, that does not pass the vertical line test. Okay, it's not a function. A function must be in the form y equals, this is x equals, we talked about all that in class and stuff. So what would be perpendicular to that? Well, perpendicular would be a horizontal line of some sort. Okay, horizontal line is y equals a number. So in this case, that would be this one. Which equation represents a line which is perpendicular? So same thing. Difference is now we have an actual equation that is not horizontal or vertical. It has a slant to it. So the slope of this one is 2. So again, it's opposite reciprocal. So 2 over 1. So to do the opposite, I make it negative. Reciprocal means I flip it. So this is the slope I'm looking for, negative 1/2. Okay, now, very similar to a couple problems ago, you need to think through what's going to happen here with each of these. So if I take I need to divide by 2, so that means I'm looking for dividing by 2 on the y. So this one's out because that's not dividing by 2. That one could be it. That one is not it. Okay, now it needs to be negative. If I take this x over, that becomes a negative x divided by a positive 2. So this is going to be my solution. Now, if you're, again, double check, x plus 2y equals negative 6, subtract x, 2y equals negative x minus 6, divide by 2, 2, 2, and here we go, y equals, that's a negative 1/2 x minus 3, there's my opposite reciprocal. So hopefully you understand, again, we're dealing with linears. You got to be able to solve the equation per se, but also understanding the concept of parallel, perpendicular, and the relationships with their slopes.